Every person needs to give their loved ones a sense of comfort. A woman should feel she is the best. A man should feel that he is the most important. It's essentially the same thing, just expressed in different ways. That's what needs to be done in the family. These are called family responsibilities. You also need to support your family in a way that keeps them secure. Some people get so carried away striving for a spiritual life that their families end up penniless. That's not the right way to pursue spirituality. Do you see now what the vital goals are? They are important, but they are not the main goal in life. If you make them the main goal, everything else in life falls apart. I once knew a man who was obsessed with swimming in ice-cold water. He trained himself, hardened his body, and swam in ice-cold water. He really did swim a lot. He could swim in freezing water for an hour, but one summer the heat came, and he died of a heart attack at age 55. Why? Because he made cold water swimming the highest goal of his life, and he immersed himself deeply in it. The highest goal in life is something that pulls infinity into infinity. If you fell in love with a woman and made her your highest goal in life, she will pull your relationship into infinity. You will keep plunging deeper into that relationship, but no one can withstand that kind of mental pressure. You drain her energy, and how much can she really give you? Water cannot give you everything you need either. Only God and the divine can infinitely increase our strength. We are souls by nature. We are infinite, boundless, never fully satisfied, always wanting more. We cannot stop. If you make a house your highest life goal, then after building one, you already crave another, and then another. You won't be able to stop there because we are insatiable. The soul is infinite by its nature and always wants more. In the soul, spiritual time works. The soul craves for ever-increasing happiness, wanting more and more happiness. But material time ages us and wears us down. Our abilities shrink as we age. But spiritual capabilities never decrease. That's why spiritual goals must be the highest, so that there is a correlation and you never feel empty or lacking. So what are important life goals? First, get an education that matches the nature of your intelligence and build your work around that. Learn to live in this world in a way that is comfortable for you. If you are inclined towards something, master it. That is an important goal. Without it, you won't die, but life won't feel whole or organized. Some people consider education the highest goal of their life and burn out as a result. I had such a problem. My parents didn't help me at all because they didn't have the means. I am from a poor family. I decided to get into medical school, and I set myself such a goal. The competition was 3 people per spot. I enrolled in vocational school after high school because I didn't have a diploma with honors. I had to study for a year at a vocational school, get a diploma with honors, and then take one exam. I studied only physics obsessively because it was the first exam. I needed to get a top grade in physics. I studied physics for a whole year and learned it so well that I didn't even get to the second question on the exam. On the first question, I provided 5 proofs of Ohm's law, while the professor knew only 3. He asked me to discuss the other 2, which I did, and I passed the exam. But that's not what I want to tell you about. I want to tell you how studying kills your personality. I made my studies the highest goal of my life. I became simply obsessed with this study. I tried to learn everything and understand everything to be a good doctor. I constantly studied. I cut my sleep, and slowly my memory started to fail. I couldn't remember anything anymore. I couldn't pass exams anymore because I was severely overloaded. I experienced a severe overload. My psyche simply resisted, and I had to sleep much more than I used to. I would go to bed at 8 p.m., barely waking up to go to class afterward. I began to experience mental slowdown. I couldn't think clearly anymore. I simply exhausted my psyche, bringing it to a completely helpless state. This was the result of this excessive focus on studies. I made studying the highest goal of my life. Education is important, but it cannot be the highest goal. The highest goal is prayer. Then comes working on yourself. Then comes study, because that's when knowledge gets truly well absorbed. This is the sequence of priorities. You only need to focus on the essentials. Learn what really matters, study it, and answer accordingly. It takes little time in life. You should always study this way because you won't remember everything anyway. You only need to remember the most important things, that's all. But to do that, your mind needs to be calm about studying. If your brain is on fire, if you're afraid of getting a low grade, if you're afraid of strict professors, then you won't be able to study like this. You need to do everything calmly. But for this, your studies should neither be the most important thing nor the least important. You need to have a middle ground. But if there is no highest goal in life, if there is no prayer, no self-work, then naturally something has to sneak in to fill the void. It may be your studies, your child, your car, your house. It can be anything. And that imbalance will ruin you. You must fill your highest goal with what truly belongs there and what gives you strength. Otherwise, problems will come. So an important goal in life is to get an education corresponding to your nature, or at least some education if you don't understand your nature. Next, strive to occupy a position in society that helps you grow. Then arrange your personal life properly. For example, some people live together without marriage. This is not right. This is an incorrect arrangement of personal life. This will not help overcome one's fate. It will lead to problems, 100% sure. And that's not even the worst option. There is cohabitation, and there are guest marriages. Some people live according to the so-called Western model. Recently, I was walking with a friend in Los Angeles. He told me to move away from another male friend of ours a little bit. I asked, why can't we walk arm in arm? He said, if men walk like you do with your friend here, they're considered gay, and people perceive them that way. I asked, so there's no such thing as just friendship between two men? He responded, there is, but that's not how people perceive this kind of interaction here. You see how the paradigm shifts? Because this happens very often there. When people start living like this, their entire paradigm of life completely changes. Sex takes the highest place in their life. It starts with same-sex obsessions, then spreads to children, objects. They start having sex with whoever and whatever they can. That's how people degrade, go mad, when sex becomes the highest goal in life. There are also secondary goals. There are things you don't need to worry about. They come naturally in life. These are prosperity and better living conditions. For example, you want to buy a new apartment. That should come naturally. People should not turn this into a life goal. Otherwise, they will drive themselves insane and can't live normally. These are secondary goals. When you make secondary goals the highest purpose of your life, you lose your mind. If someone makes wealth and enrichment their highest goal, they say goodbye to happiness. The mind simply cannot withstand such pressure. A person burns up from within and can't do anything about it. Another example is striving for a higher social position. When people become fixated on power and social standing, they lose their mind. They humiliate and torture themselves to the point where their psyche collapses. Living like that is incredibly hard. In reality, these things come naturally when people develop and grow as individuals. Everyone sees this, and their position in society improves. The senior managers notice who works better and who puts less effort into their work. As you develop as a person, your relationships with others improve. People notice when someone becomes more responsible, more resilient, with greater willpower, and promotion follows. Advancement comes naturally. But if you climb up without having the necessary qualifications, you'll just make yourself and everyone around you miserable and eventually come crashing down. Secondary goals are those that come naturally. The time comes and you have more money because you're developing. A higher position in society comes. Critics have called me the most promoted brand among doctors. But I never promoted myself. When I started giving lectures 20 years ago, I simply rented a venue and hung up some signs, and people started coming. After 20 years, people somehow started paying attention to me. It just happened that way. That's how it worked. These things happen naturally. You don't need to promote anything or put on a show. Improving your living conditions, gaining a higher status in society, achieving prosperity and well-being, all these should come naturally. These should never become a feverish pursuit. Otherwise, you'll go mad. These are secondary goals. There are also temporary goals. Temporary goals include being organized and maintaining good relationships. These are things that need to be done right now. All of this should also happen naturally. How will this help in achieving your true purpose? We set goals differently for men and women, but for everyone, the highest goal in life is a connection with holiness. A connection with a higher pure force, which gives you peace of heart. Then it gives you knowledge. There are 2 more stages after knowledge. If you continue to connect with this force deeper, you feel victory right here in your heart, and then you feel faith. Faith means that in the toughest moment, you turn to this higher power and know that it will definitely help you. This is what is called faith. It's a practical thing. Faith is not blind. Faith is a practice. What do people believe in? They believe in what helps them. How to determine what your faith is? If your wife leaves, what do you rush to do? If you run after her, it means you believe in yourself. If you seek advice, it means you believe in a mentor. If you pray, it means you believe in higher powers. If you go to hang yourself, that's also a kind of faith. If you drink, that means your faith is in the bottle. If you're watching hockey, then your faith is in hockey. Where you turn in hard times, that's your faith. The higher your faith, the better the result, and the more opportunities you have to overcome your fate. Hockey players won't help bring your wife back. So for everyone, both men and women, the foundation is the highest goal in life, combined with working on yourself. These are inseparable. They are roughly the same thing. After that, for a woman comes family. This is what is vital for a woman. For a man, social development and work come next. Yesterday, a young woman asked me, "What should I do in life? What career should I choose?" I asked, "Are you married?" She said, "No." I told her, "Then focus on building a family." She replied, "But I need to eat and have a place to live." I said, "Find something, get any decent job, and you'll have food." She insisted, "But I want something better. I want to earn more." I told her, "If you chase after better and strive for a higher income, you will end up without a family." For women, better means something else, not a higher salary. If a woman is not married, then better means learning to smile, learning to speak warmly, learning to care, learning to cook, learning to dress properly, and so on. It means truly becoming a woman, learning to be a woman, and preparing for family life. But a woman should never sit around dreaming. She should never do this. Dreaming breeds sadness and longing. When a woman starts to dream, she destroys her life. A woman should not dream. She should invest her strength in building relationships. I knew a young woman who couldn't get married. Whenever I visited her city, she helped with cooking and preparations. She always asked me when she would get married. I saw that it was quite difficult for her because of her fate. I determined this by the left hand. I told her, "You think too much about marriage even in your sleep. Let's make a decision. Please gradually shift your thoughts away from marriage and put your energy into helping others in feminine ways. Let yourself switch. Let yourself stop howling at the moon and start acting." The next year I visited, I saw that she was radiant, more rosy-cheeked. She was not married. I asked her, "What are you doing?" She replied, "I'm switching." She objectively looked better. In the third year, when I came, I observed an interesting phenomenon. I saw this young woman blossoming and happy, everyone noticing her. She became beautiful. I asked, "Have you found someone?" She replied, "I've completely forgotten about it. There are so many good things happening in my life. I'm fine as I am." When I saw this, I told her, "Now you will get married 100% sure." Because when a woman reaches this inner strength where she's like, "We'll see what happens," that's when she will definitely get married. Fixating on dreams breeds weakness. When the dreams are gone, only bitterness remains. That's why spiritual life must come first. When a woman prays, she gains the strength to overcome her fate. She has the ability to switch her focus, although it's hard. She gains inner strength through prayer. Prayer gives her that strength. You can study so much that your body no longer has the ability to reproduce. Like in the joke, an old lady comes to the doctor and says, "Doctor, I seem to have trouble urinating." The doctor asks her, "How old are you?" She says, 80. He examines her and says, "Well, that's it. You've simply run out of urine." It's the same when some women come and say, "For some reason I can't get pregnant." And how old is she, 50? Her reproductive system is done. It's worn out. What was she doing all these years? She was studying and working. Well done. She has been singing all this time. Now it's time to dance. Once a woman turns 18, that's it. She needs to put other thoughts aside. She can study in parallel or work on the side, but the main thing for a woman is always her family. She should have no other thoughts and distractions. Self-development is a vital goal. A woman should learn to forgive, to be patient, to care, to speak warmly, and to behave kindly. Today, some girls came to visit me wearing Muslim clothing. They spoke to me warmly and behaved kindly. I sat next to them like a hypnotized zombie, looking at them and listening to them talk. They were talking the whole time. When women wear traditional clothes, they radiate tremendous power. What about modern fashion? When everything is exposed and all female energy is left open, it delivers such a blow that you instinctively want to put up a barrier. There's barely any clothing. This is for fools. Normal, reasonable men won't even want to look. They're afraid to because there's too much on display. There is no way to take it in properly. But foolish men think immediately, "Ah, a woman," and rush toward her. That's fine for such men because they only have one activity on their mind. But a reasonable man looks for something different. That's why, on the contrary, a woman should cover up more, because if she wants to get married, she should leave only her face visible. The face is the purest, most elevated, and beautiful part of a woman's body. That's what attracts reasonable men, not womanizers. When a woman behaves this way, her chances of success are 100%. You don't bait a pike with a worm, you use a crucian carp. A rough won't swallow a crucian carp. When a woman covers herself and leaves only her face visible, like these girls who visited me today, her magnetism is incredible. The magnetism of a woman who wears beautiful traditional clothes is amazing. People immediately feel respect for her. There are two types of attitudes toward women. The first type of relationship is the desire to use a woman, and the second type of relationship is to respect her. Traditional clothing in any national tradition always evokes respect for women. This type of apparel resonates with reasonable people. It signals to reasonable men that a woman is worthy of marriage. The other style is for those who are only after pleasure.
Now everyone's getting silicone breasts.
Silicone? I once saw a young woman on a plane passing by. She had beautiful lips. I looked and somehow it made me feel uneasy. Her lips seemed cold and repulsive. On the outside they seemed beautiful, but they attracted attention in a repulsive way. I started looking at the subtle energy level and sensed that those were artificially inflated lips. Terrible.
But everyone says men want that.
Well, some men even buy rubber dolls. They aren't even after silicone breasts. You know, if a man can't find a real woman, he buys himself a rubber one. Men are different. Let's move away from this topic. A woman should set the right goals for herself and develop as a person, because a woman's true beauty is not just what is outside. It comes from within. When a woman behaves correctly, she shines from within, and that's the kind of power that attracts others. Painting over the outside doesn't help. There is a joke. A woman puts on a gas mask, does her makeup, and asks her husband, "How do you like me today?" He answers, "Did you pluck your eyebrows?" That's how it looks when a woman relies on makeup. This approach doesn't work. Putting a mask on your face doesn't work. It may create a first impression, but then what? There's nothing else, because next comes a woman's heart, which is what really matters, and you can't put makeup on your heart. That's what you need to work on. When a woman gets that part right, everything else becomes easier. Once a woman asked me, "What should I do next?" "I'm already married, Dr. Torsunov. Everything is fine. What should I do about work?" I asked, "Is that so important for you right now?" She said, "Well, not really, but of course I need to work." I told her, "Fine, go and work somewhere." I'll explain now what criteria women should use to choose where to work when your family life is fine. At work, they should let you leave early. That's the first criterion. The second criterion is that you can snack during the day. A woman doesn't gorge, she snacks at work. She can also drink some tea, snack, and talk. She should be able to socialize and leave. The boss should also speak kindly. That's it. 5 simple criteria. Women who need something else beyond that at work, please stand up. Are there any? Not one raised her hand. Oh, one woman did. What else do you need?
A higher salary.
But that's already a secondary thing. Are you married?
Yes.
And you still want a higher salary? Well, then that's already a problem. Do you understand? In fact, you will find yourself. A married woman already prays to God. She is already married. Her mind calms down, and she begins to easily sense what she should do, because for a woman, work is a place to rest. She just needs to express her creative abilities there. A woman has a very creative mind. She wants to create, to do something good and meaningful for others. She should channel these creative abilities into her work. She will find what to do. She will no longer have problems. There won't be any more time pressure. She will just calmly study, go somewhere and do something there. It might not even be called work. She can help someone, take care of someone, participate in charity work, and so on. There are many different options for a woman to fulfill her soul. If her husband is understanding, of course. Now about men. First comes spiritual life and development. What does this development give a man? It gives him the ability to grow and develop in society. Now I will explain how a man should grow in society. A complete understanding of one's purpose is required. For a flower to bloom, it first needs to grow tall enough. The watering with spiritual power allows a person to grow and understand themselves. When the bud appears, the desire to act also appears. It doesn't matter what, just a desire to work, to do something. A person no longer wants to just sit idly at home. Until this moment, the sprout grows. But eventually it all grows into a need to act. A man who practices only spirituality must do one more thing. He must go out to work. It doesn't matter where, he just needs to work. Because if a man sits at home doing nothing, it's the end for him. His psyche simply degrades. He cannot remain a normal person if he just sits at home doing nothing. For a man, this is impossible. It is very dangerous for his mental health because such men start to develop serious pathologies. That idle energy turns into destructive habits like drinking, smoking, meaningless sex, and so on. This is all because energy needs to be directed outward. A man's energy constantly goes outward. A man needs to occupy it somehow. If he doesn't, he starts to lose his mind. So first comes spiritual life and self-improvement, which allows the sprout to grow quickly. Then the man begins to understand what he needs in life. Most people, and particularly men under 30, have no idea what they want from life. They simply don't know what to do. That's a sign of mental underdevelopment and immaturity. It does not mean that no one has ever told them what to do. Here's an example. Once a young man approached me. I usually see a person's general purpose just by looking. He asked me, "What is my purpose?" I told him what it was. He said, "But I'm working in a different field." I told him, "That's not effective for you. What I suggested will work better for you." I saw him the next day and asked him, "Are you ready to change?" He said, "No." I asked why. He said, "After your consultation, I began doubting what you said." Then I conducted an experiment. I asked, "Are you married?" He said, "No." I asked, "Which of the girls here is not married?" Right next to him, one girl raised her hand. I said, "Here, a girl is sitting next to you. Marry her." They looked at each other. They said, "No, we don't want to." I asked, "So why did you think that when I told you your purpose, you would change right away?" It doesn't work like that. It has to come from the heart. A person must feel and understand it for themselves. Nobody else can do it for them. That's why a man must work on himself and develop so that he feels who he should be in life. For this, you need to work on yourself. Prayer and self-improvement are two practices that give a person the opportunity to open up and discover themselves. First, prayer and self-improvement. Then, for a woman, family comes first, then work. For a man, work first, then family. But family must not be skipped. When a man starts living in lust, he loses everything: his work, his spirituality, his strength, and his good habits. He thinks he is not losing anything. He goes here, goes there, he has fun. He thinks he is not losing anything. But here's an interesting example. I have an acquaintance. He is a very successful businessman. He has his own business. He was about 40 at the time. Now he's older. A prominent man. He decided to enjoy life first. He had fun until he was 30. He had a good time. Then he asked me, "How do I find a wife?" I meet a woman, and I already know what will happen next. I already know. He's already had his fun. He knows what will happen next. He understands a woman's character more or less. He feels her psyche, and he senses that she wouldn't suit him. He told me, "I can't find anyone who would suit me. All women seem the same." I said, "Well, yes, that's how it works." He asked, "Where can I find one who really suits me?" He is an attractive man. Finding a woman would be no problem at all. He can get married, but he has no chance. Why? Because the ability to believe in a woman is destroyed when a man cheats. He can no longer trust a woman. He cannot create a family with her because he's already had his fun. His sense of faith disappears. He can no longer trust one person. He can no longer forgive, endure her flaws, work on himself, or help. All women are selfish, just like men, outwardly beautiful, but inside there are plenty of flaws and shortcomings. Men who have already had their fun have little chance of marriage later because they have to overcome themselves. A man has to accept that he'll get someone worse than those earlier options. We always compare. So having fun is not the way to build your life, but that is not even the biggest problem. When a man cheats, he loses willpower, determination, courage, memory, and purity. He becomes a deceiver, unable to overcome his own weaknesses. His psyche goes downhill, and his ability to live normally collapses. He becomes inadequate. There aren't many adequate people in this world, and cheating is often the reason. You need to be very careful about this. Very careful. What should a wife do? A wife must understand that this is what she got according to her fate, which means she behaved a certain way in her past life. You must always start with yourself. I once gave a seminar on the law of karma. When people ask me this question, I'd say, let's start from the beginning. Nobody ever gets their close person for no reason. Smart ones got smart ones, and I got you. That's the law of karma. When you understand that this is your fate, you know what to do with your loved one. You must forgive them, accept them, and keep working on yourself and on your relationship. So it's important for a man to arrange his personal life later on, because when a man is firmly established, his personal life becomes his support. If he is strong in family life, then his relationships with others in the world depend on how his wife treats him. Because a woman has the power to fill. If we compare it to a syringe, the woman is the liquid inside, and the man is the structure. The liquid moves. It gives the force for something to go forward. A woman is this nourishing power. Her strength lies not in herself, but in her ability to fill and inspire others. A man needs this kind of nourishment to grow. He needs an inspiring force. If family life is built properly, the wife believes in him and invests her mental energy into him. And that energy affects everyone around. Studies show that the way a wife treats her husband influences how colleagues and subordinates treat him too. If a woman respects her husband, everyone else respects him too. If she doesn't, it becomes harder for others to show respect. If a woman is unfaithful to her husband, others around him also tend to be disloyal. In the end, they betray him. This happens 100% of the time. I've seen it many times. A woman who values her family above her work and invests in her husband and children becomes truly happy. Because they all succeed, the husband grows and the children grow. She experiences more happiness in life because a woman is designed in such a way that she feels more joy from the happiness of her loved ones than from her own. Try to understand this. If her son and husband are doing well, she feels happier than if she succeeded just for herself. Whatever she invests her energy into, that's what grows and flourishes. A man also needs someone to invest energy in him, not just a casual relationship, but deep and faithful relationships that help him grow. Experience shows that behind every successful man there is always a strong woman who gave him the inner strength to succeed. That's how it works. It doesn't work any other way. Here's an interesting point. When someone chooses between hard work and easy money, it's not so simple. There are people who haven't invested enough effort into their spiritual growth, and as a result, they have fewer opportunities in life. Opportunities come from inner development. Society has different layers, and some think they can move to a higher level just through connections. That might work for a while, but it's artificial. Real progress in life and society comes from working on yourself, from self-improvement. Because in higher circles of society, the relationships are different. For example, people in leadership positions will look into your eyes before they even speak to you. They can immediately see whether you have basic moral values or not. If you don't, they won't want to deal with you. People in higher social positions carefully observe how a person behaves, how their character shows itself, and so on. So if you want to rise to a higher level of life, you have to change yourself from within. Pure connections are not enough. This happens naturally. When a person grows from within and develops, they automatically rise in society. That's how it always works. It's natural. If I advertise for healing and more patients come than what is destined for me, I will start getting negative results. My life experience shows that a patient comes when you're ready. He comes on his own. If you try to drag him in forcefully, there will be problems. It's the same with artists selling their paintings. First, you should try out your idea on a small group, on a small scale, before trying it on a large one. Remember, Peter the Great first had mock troops. He simply trained soldiers with them, and later these same mock troops took over all of Russia. The same thing applies to business. First, we need a team. Just start doing what you want with a few people. Even if you don't earn anything at first, see whether people are drawn to you or not. Can you replace them if needed? Do they become loyal to you? Can you keep people around, or do they all leave? Can you lead them? Can you correct them without offending them? If you can't do all that, then it means you lack leadership qualities. You take a loan, gather people, and they just pull the money apart. And goodbye apartment. Try to understand, it's personal qualities that form the foundation for building anything. If you think you already can do it, prove it to yourself. Test it on a small scale first, then see what happens next. And experience shows, if a person isn't ready, he starts trying and sees that he can't lead. That means he needs to grow. In ancient culture, leaders were trained from childhood until the age of 25. They learned the rules of social behavior. A leader must know how to act properly in society. He should know different languages, how to speak properly, dress appropriately, behave in high society, and interact with ordinary people. How to deal with a mentor, with a wife, and so on. All this has clear rules that must be studied. A leader also needs to know strategies, whether in battle or relationships, how to win. He should have strong physical and mental health and learn to be brave and decisive. They trained for 25 years. At the age of 5, a boy would leave home to live with his teacher, and that's how it all began. And in our culture, it was the same. In Russia, royal children were trained just like that. I studied their schedule. It was strict. They woke up early, started with prayer, and the day took off. How did the children of the Tsars study? A businessman was trained until the age of 20, and a priest trained for his entire life. The idea is, for a person to grow, they must develop themselves from within. That's the main type of development. It naturally leads to a higher position in life. Can someone hire an ordinary police officer who actually has the qualities of a general? If he has those qualities, people respect him. He has willpower, common sense, good manners, comes from a good family. It shows on his face. So why wouldn't the boss promote him right away? Is he a fool? Obviously, the boss will promote him. You can recognize a capable person right away. You can't hide him. That's it. Become the kind of person who stands out, and then why worry? Everything will come to you naturally. This works 100%. There are 2 categories of people. Once in India, I approached some women carrying bricks on their heads. I asked them, "Why are you doing this for just a handful of rice? Aren't there other ways to live?" They replied, "We were taught to do this all our lives. We don't know how to do anything else." Well then, study and learn something new. Why spend your whole day carrying bricks? She said, "I'm illiterate. How can I study?" I said, "Then first learn to read and write so you can study later." But she just walked away with the bricks. Do you know why? Because it's a mindset, a donkey mindset. There are 2 types of thinking. One is when a person doesn't do what directly brings results. The other is when he does exactly what brings results. These 2 approaches are completely opposite. A person who focuses on higher values will naturally receive the lower ones too. For example, when a person works on themselves, they don't need to worry about getting the right position in society. It comes on its own. But some people think, if I get a job and work hard, then one day I'll become the director of a factory. No way, that's a dream. You'll just keep working hard like that your whole life. Others think, if I get a management degree, I'll become a manager. That's also nonsense. Who's going to hire you? Even if you have 3 university degrees, it's clear from your face whether you're fit to lead people or not. It doesn't matter how many degrees you have. You can tell everything by a person's face, what kind of person they are, where they are heading. Who among you here are employers? Raise your hands. Do you agree that you can tell a lot by someone's face and that education comes second? Everyone agrees. That's the only system that really works. You can see right away who someone is. Whether a person is developed or not is obvious. Just talk to them for a bit and it becomes clear. This is a very important point that I want to highlight. It's both practical and essential to understand. If a person isn't developed enough to take a high position in society, they shouldn't choose work that matches their natural tendency. They should choose work that brings income. Otherwise, they'll live without even basic needs. Some people spend their whole life being lazy. They didn't study properly, didn't develop themselves, and now they don't know what to do. But one day they feel, this is my nature. This is what I should do. But that field doesn't bring income, and that's often the case. So they go and work where they can earn, and that's the right thing to do. Because their main task is simply to survive. When I was studying in medical college, I worked as a night guard, janitor, nurse. I worked wherever I could just to survive. But deep inside, I always wanted to treat people, talk to them, guide them, share knowledge. That's what I truly felt. I had no problem with self-development because I grew up in a family with constant drinking, fights, and arguments, and from childhood I had a strong desire to work on myself. Because of all that, I started doing breathing exercises, yoga, fasting, prayers, and other practices from around the age of 10. I lived that way constantly, trying to overcome my destiny, and it helped me avoid many problems in life. For example, I never drank, never smoked, and quickly got into self-improvement. By the time I was 18, I clearly knew that I wanted to be a doctor. I had no doubts. I was completely sure about it. But at that time, my abilities were only enough for janitor, guard, or nurse jobs, so I worked there, and at the same time I studied. Then came a time when I was constantly working with patients, always among people. Once I was treating someone at the clinic by pressing points. I was in my 4th year at that time, and I was explaining to him how to live correctly, how to build immunity, how to recover from his illness. We were talking and he said, "You speak so well, why don't you come and give a talk at our institute? I head a department there, and all my team will come to listen to you." Imagine, the institute full of serious people, and I was this small guy, still a student in my 4th year. Around 30 people came to the lecture. It was the first lecture of my life. When I came out to speak, my legs started shaking. I felt a heaviness pulling me down. I looked at them and couldn't say a word. Not a single word would come out. And he started asking me questions, gradually getting me going. After just 3 lectures, everything took off. And it's been going like that for 20, almost 25 years now. So what's the idea? Back then, I wasn't earning anything from it. I would just go and give lectures wherever I was invited without asking for money. Just came, gave lectures, and that's it. Later, people themselves started offering money, and things slowly moved forward. You see, at that time, I was still working as a night guard, janitor, and nurse. If someone is not yet developed, they should work wherever possible, and at the same time work on themselves and grow as a person. One person came up to me and said, "I work at Herbalife selling supplements, but I want to be a yoga instructor. What should I do? No one comes to my classes." I told him, "Just focus on your personal growth, learn to pray, work on yourself, and continue working at Herbalife. The time will come and you'll see. At some point you'll be ready for that activity and you'll be able to earn money from it. Let's say you decided to be an engineer, then just live on that one salary as it is. You must understand, if you're not yet developed in your chosen path, start by growing spiritually, improving yourself, and meanwhile, take any available job. And then move on. Same goes for a girl. No support from parents, no money, not married yet. What should she do? She should look for a job. It's a compromise. Ideally, for a woman, family comes first, then career. But if there's no opportunity, if she's not yet developed and no one wants to marry her when she's young, then she should start working and develop as a person. Personal development means first prayer, then self-work. That's how the flower starts to grow and eventually blooms. Once the flower blooms, problems disappear. When a person becomes a strong personality, problems just go away. Goodbye to all of them. After that, everything in life becomes easier. A woman quickly finds a husband, a man quickly finds a job and earns money. Everything flows naturally. But until that moment, remember, the driving force is spiritual life. You need to water the root of the tree for the flower to grow. Some people think work itself is the driving force. That's nonsense. If I want to become a boss, the driving force isn't just staying in that role and practicing leadership. That logic sounds good, but it doesn't work. To lead better, you need to be watered. In other words, something must nourish you from within. A vacuum cleaner doesn't turn into a rocket launcher on its own. It needs some force, some energy to transform. A person might think, "I'm working and investing energy," but at some point they'll get stuck. They won't be able to lead anymore. They'll lack strength. Let me give you an example of what that strength is. If a powerful city official walks in here now and steps onto the stage, I will immediately feel smaller, and so will you. Do you know why? His presence will press us down. The power coming from him is so strong, you can't resist it. He won't even need to show documents. He'll just walk in and step on stage. And that alone will make everyone feel humble and grounded. I was giving a lecture at the police academy in Krasnodar. A lieutenant colonel listening to my talk said, "Come on, speak to the officers. They need it. They look unhappy." I said, "Let's try." About 500 police officers gathered. They were in training. I entered through a side door. The adjutant yelled, "Stand up!" and everyone stood up. My knees nearly buckled. I walked to the stage. He said, "Sit." Everyone sat and fixed their eyes on me. When one officer stares, it's tense, but 500 officers? The adjutant ran up and said, "You have 40 minutes. I tried different ways of speaking. Nothing worked. Then I understood human nature. I began talking about planet Mars, how it's linked to courage, and that police have strong Mars energy. I said, Mars connects to courage, strength, and even sexual function. They all looked at me. Like in the movie Lenin in October when they say comrades. Then I said, if a man treats others cruelly, he risks impotence. That was the breakthrough. Everyone listened closely and seriously. Before that, they had flattened me with their authority. I felt that power emanates from a person. I truly felt it. It's real. You can't ignore it. To grow, you must cultivate that power within yourself. Some have the power of a scientist, others of a ruler, businessman, or creative person. That power grows through spiritual energy, prayer, self-work, what lets a person truly bloom. to become a strong personality, whether feminine or masculine. Now is a turning point in our talk. I've shared the main essence. But that's like having just the cake layers, no filling, no cream yet. We'll make that cream together. I need your help. Please ask questions about what I've just said. Let's discuss.
If a man stays at home, will it be hard for him too?
For a retired man to stay at home?
Yes.
Why should he sit at home in retirement? What should he do? First, know this. If someone no longer works and is elderly, they should focus on spiritual practice, not just sitting at home. Sitting means death for a man. If a man does nothing and wanders at home, he risks a heart attack. A man who does nothing is a walking corpse. He has so much energy inside it must go somewhere, or he will drink himself away. Or he'll chase women, hide in TV, internet, bars, or casinos. He must go somewhere. If he stays home with nowhere to go, he's heading to his grave. You might order the coffin. A man must be busy, passionate about something in life. He needs goals and achievements. Without purpose, he risks depression. Otherwise, he'll just sleep, eat, or have sex all day. He can't live aimlessly. Yes, your question.
You said a man needs to be busy. Does it matter what he does?
Good question. Do you know what you should be doing in life?
I have a general feeling.
Do you have the opportunity in your life to do this? Can you get a job and work there?
Yes.
That's it. It means you found yourself. But you lack the strength to be powerful in this direction. You now need to put all your energy into spiritual life. You need to find holiness, keep it in front of you, and spend an hour or more each morning in prayer, self-reflection, and personal growth. In about 6 months, you'll change. Your development will begin. You'll start growing as a person.
I feel like a flower bud opening. Is this feeling happiness at this stage?
It's a feeling of enthusiasm, strength, determination, and clarity in the work you're doing. What is your work?
I'm involved in community service.
Do you tell people something?
I cook food for people.
Then you will become a great chef, someone who creates dishes that truly amaze others. People will eat and be blown away. You'll be a top chef. Please understand, I'm not joking, I'm speaking seriously. A person who cooks brilliantly has power in this. It always comes only from the heart. The heart needs to mature. In your heart, I now see fatigue. You are tired of life. You don't know how to live further. You have no strength because the pull is weak. Not enough air is coming in. For a fire to burn in a furnace, you need a good draft. You need to raise the chimney. Then more air will flow, and the fire will burn brighter. Why did people work so hard during the socialist era? Because they believed in a brighter future. That strong inner pull made them burn with energy. And they worked joyfully without stopping. That's why the songs from that era are so cheerful. Because people had faith, they had inner strength and spirit to change the country. In the 1950s and 60s, our country was developing rapidly. We outpaced the whole world. That power came from the strength of the soul. People believed in a bright future. That's why they moved forward with such force. All the great discoveries in Russia, the famous songs, they were born during that time. The best singers, actors, musicians, everything just flourished then. Because that strong spiritual force filled the whole country, fully. And you need to create that kind of pull within yourself. It comes through connection. Do you have friends you can talk to about spiritual matters?
Yes, I do.
Connect with them and grow. Do you have a mentor?
No.
Then how will you grow? Here is the method. First, you must find spiritual association. Get to know others, talk with them. Spiritual connection is the first step. Everything else comes when the time is right. Once you have spiritual association, you should look for a field in which you can grow. This is a direction of philosophical thought. There are sacred scriptures, the Bible, the Quran, the Torah, and so on. These scriptures provide knowledge that supports your growth. They are your schools and universities. It's like advanced mathematics. Which direction will you take? That's your decision. In that direction, there are teachers and guides who will support your learning. But before a person develops, they don't yet know which way to go. At least find friends who are also moving in that same direction. If you want to study mathematics, at least have one friend at school who also wants to go into mathematics. Then you can prepare and grow together. But a mentor is still far away. To accept a mentor, you need to already be moving in their path. Mentors always belong to a certain tradition, a religious culture. There are no true mentors who just hit you on the head with a brick and suddenly you become enlightened. That's not a mentor, that's a fraud. A true mentor always grows within a spiritual school. He has his own mentors. He receives knowledge from them. It should be a serious, well-established tradition. Knowledge doesn't just fall from the sky. A person must first reach such a serious tradition. First, one must grow and work on oneself. Only then can they move forward in the right direction.
Do we need a specific person, or is just an image enough?
An image can lead you to a mental hospital. Because there are two forces that influence a person, the supersoul and the false ego, and both can give images. For example, you fall in love with a woman, but she's already married. If you listen to your heart, do you know what it might say? I once had a case. A woman came to me and said, I have a husband, we love each other, we should be together. I didn't understand, so I asked, why aren't you together? What's stopping you? She said, Dr. Torsunov, in this life he has a wife and 2 children, but in several past lives I was his wife. And in this life we were supposed to meet again, but that woman got in the way. So if you bless us now, we can be together. We'll just forget about her and the kids, send them away. She'll get a kick, and we just need your blessing. He has been my husband for several lifetimes, you understand? She said the supersoul told her that, but really it was her ego speaking. You can imagine all sorts of wild stories. So I told her, calm down, he should stay with his wife, and you should go find someone else.
Dr. Torsunov, how can a woman manage everything, read prayers and cook in goodness and fulfill her other duties?
Well done, thank you so much. See how your question made everyone happy. A woman should pray while cooking, also while doing laundry. A woman's mind is very restless. It's always moving and getting distracted. She finds it hard to sit still. It's difficult for a woman to just sit and pray. But if she prays while cooking, her focus can become very strong because she knows why she's doing it. When she feeds her husband, she sees how his face changes. If she prepares food with prayer, her husband stays sober all day, not drunk. She can feel it, she sees it. She puts prayer into the food, into the laundry, into the children when dressing them. If she does this regularly, she doesn't need to find extra time for prayer. Even when going to work, she puts energy into her children and family first. Work comes second, and everything works out well for such a woman. When my wife cooks, she gets very tired, especially when she concentrates deeply on the food. Maybe because she wants to give a lot to me. It tires her out. So I advised her, while cooking, listen to a lecture by your mentor. Focus on that and on prayer. Don't get too caught up in the cooking itself. She started doing that, and now she doesn't get tired at all. Let the woman ask her question first, otherwise if I skip her, she'll think Dr. Torsunov doesn't follow the rules. Even if she just thinks it, it's like a curse. A woman's energy is powerful. If she thinks that, Dr. Torsunov will be knocked out for half a day.
Thank you for your lectures. I'd like to ask a question about relationships between a man and a woman. I've started working on myself through various spiritual practices, but my husband doesn't understand or accept it. He stays at his own level.
You've grown, your level has increased, but he's still at the same low level, right? You're better, he's worse, right?
He just sits and waits. My income has gone up, his wife started earning, and he's fine with that.
So you've progressed and started earning more?
And it's always been this way. Now we have no relationship. I even thought of breaking up, but after listening to you, I realized that this is part of my karma. Should I stay and keep working on myself more, or what?
Do you have 2 wooden planks at home? Take them, nail them together, one like this, the other across, and stand on them, and play funeral music. You asked a very good question and said everything correctly. The part about the boards was just to lighten the mood for others. Now let's talk seriously with you. There are things inside us that are very hard to understand, and they always show up when a person starts working on themselves. Imagine I begin improving my diet, stop eating meat, but my husband still eats it like crazy. I can't even eat next to him, it's disgusting. There are always dead bodies in the fridge. And the first result of life changes is pride, which destroys a person completely. It leaves nothing behind. I pray every morning and my husband comes home drunk. I'm almost a saint now, but he's still the same scoundrel he was. But working on yourself means something completely different. It means you can give more of your strength to your loved ones. Being a developed woman means you work less and your husband works more. If you're the one doing more while your husband does less, it actually means you're not strong, you're weak. Try to understand that. And if your self-development isn't improving your family life, then all your energy is feeding your pride, not your inner strength. Because pride is weakness, not strength. That's why your husband doesn't like what you're doing. It's destroying your family. Try to understand. If you're really working on yourself, you should become more modest, more humble, and less demanding. You should forgive your husband for earning less. That's called accepting your destiny. And once this strength appears in your heart, what will happen? Your husband will start feeling deeply guilty. He'll feel like he's not doing enough. He'll think, I have such a good wife. She cooks, cleans, washes clothes, all with such humility. And on top of that, she earns more than me. I'm really falling short. This is what will start growing inside him. And you, instead of criticizing, should say, you're doing well. You're my little growing mushroom. Soon you'll become a real one. If you feed a cow plastic bags, she'll start producing gasoline. And if you constantly say things like, everyone else has swans, but I have a walking disaster, then your man will become just that, a problem, like in the movies. This is how a wife influences her husband. Weak women cannot inspire men. They nag them. In fact, they're cutting off the very branch they're sitting on. Because when a family falls apart, a man quickly finds someone else, but a woman often stays alone for a long time. A woman should learn to invest not in herself or her own life. Some women say, I need to take time for myself. But don't focus on yourself. Use your energy to give to your husband. That's where your happiness lies, in the man beside you, not in yourself. And what does a woman who only invests in herself gain? She gains nothing in life. A woman finds happiness when the people around her are good. That's what brings her joy in life. Your problem is pride. You've become proud beside your husband, and so he'll become even weaker. The result of such a relationship is always divorce. Or just go buy those 2 sticks and turn yourself into a victim. Let's give the floor to a young man now, because men can also feel hurt.
Please tell me, how do you know when it's the right time to get married?
At 15, a boy's body is already grown. Everything is big, strong, masculine. He can even father an entire platoon. But all the children he will have will be as developed as he is. Do you see the point? It's perfectly fine that you ask this. You can marry before you're fully mature. Are you already married, sir?
Already divorced.
Planning to get married again?
Yes.
There's nothing more to say then. Your divorce was predictable. The same thing will happen again. You can get married now, but work on yourself at the same time. A man being underdeveloped doesn't mean he has no job. It means he lacks inner strength. So what's the biggest sign a woman shouldn't marry a man? How can you tell he's not ready for family life?
He can't provide for himself.
That's a good sign, but not the main one. There's something even more important. Ladies, listen carefully. If you get moody around a man and he reacts the same way, say goodbye to him. The main sign that a man is ready for family life is his ability to handle a woman's emotions. That's true male strength. It shows he has inner power. What's the difference between a boy and a man? A boy may look grown and strong, but he can't handle emotions. When a girl gets upset, he gets upset too, even though everything has already grown. That's the real issue. When a man becomes truly strong and learns to endure emotions, then he becomes able to provide for a family. That's what male strength really is. The ability to provide comes from willpower, determination, courage, and the ability to endure tough situations. It's all the same strength. If you say, I'm still too immature to find a job, that also means you'll face trouble in your personal life. What happened in your first marriage wasn't by chance. It was bound to happen. I'm speaking directly to you now, so if you're planning to marry again, work on yourself at the same time. It always happens. When a man is not strong, he rushes into another marriage right after divorce. This means he cannot hold his sexual energy inside. He has no control over it. You need to start doing some healing practices now. Prayer, daily routine, and self-development. Do this and soon you'll have enough inner strength to both handle a woman's emotions and find a job at the same time. It's the same kind of strength. It works for both things at once. The simplest male healing practice is joining a sports club. Hit something, do push-ups, lift weights. That's the easiest way. A man can start from there. Prayer, healing practices. This is not a simple thing. At least do something physically, at least cold water therapy, running. Do something to build your willpower. Start with your body. The next step is working on your diet. When a man becomes physically strong, he should move on to controlling his senses. He should focus on his food and give up whatever harms his clarity of mind, especially alcohol and such things. Once a man reaches this stage, he can begin serious prayer. With that mindset, he can start changing his fate. At some point he'll feel he can make himself work, go to his job, and also tolerate a woman, not when she's sweet and smiling, but when she's crying and complaining. That's the real test of a man. At that moment he must stay strong and calm. He must respond with patience. Yes, my dear, everything will be fine, don't worry. And she says, you always say that. And you repeat, everything will be fine, don't worry. If you ask this question, it means it will definitely happen in your life, because once a person sees the goal, there's no turning back. Knowledge is what always leads a person to success. If you understood all this, listened to everything said about your life in front of others, accepted it, then it has touched you deeply. Victory will surely follow. There's a girl sitting here. I asked her to. Oh, she stood up right away.
How do you know if a girl is ready to get married?
If a girl's body is fully developed and everything is fine, then she's physically ready for marriage. But actually the key thing is her inner readiness. When she feels mentally ready, then she's ready. No other criteria are needed. If everything is already in place, she just needs to say to herself, I'm getting married. I like your optimism. Because when a woman isn't ready, she's simply afraid of marriage, just afraid. Some women stay afraid of marriage until they're 40. In such cases, by around 25, it's good to find someone who can guide you, because many women are so scared of marriage that they can't decide on their own. But they easily agree when someone they trust tells them, it's time, go get married. This works very powerfully. If there is an elder who says, get married, she believes him, and she does it. Did I answer your question?
All my relatives say I should go, but I don't.
All your relatives say to go, but you don't. You need someone strong beside you who will push you. It happens. It doesn't mean you're not ready for marriage. It's just that a woman's inner defense mechanism is very strong. She needs to be pushed. Just say firmly, that's it, I said get married.
Dr. Torsunov, how can a wife inspire her husband to take part in social work?
Does he even have the nature for social work? Maybe he's not meant to do that at all. Helping him starts with helping yourself. Not helping him, but helping yourself, because it's your karma. He is your living karma, your fate. He doesn't need help. He's punishing you. He's making you suffer. Help yourself. It all starts with beginning a spiritual practice. When you begin spiritual practice, the first thing that happens is it becomes easier to be near this person. He doesn't torture you as much anymore. That's the first effect of spiritual practice. The second is that you gain the wisdom to inspire him, because when a woman is suffering because of a man, she can't inspire him, she only nags. When you become spiritually strong inside, the first thing that comes is peace. You accept this person into your life. The second step, you build communication with him, a relationship. You're able to speak to him calmly, accepting him as he is. You'll be able to speak without resentment, just discuss things peacefully. This is the second level of influence. The third level is when you can share with him what helps him grow, in a feminine way, gently and humbly. Do you understand what I'm saying? It all depends on your inner strength. There are 3 powers, 3 levels of strength that can change your fate in any relationship. The first level is staying calm during hardship, accepting a person, accepting your factory boss, accepting the job you've got. It's something from the soul, like accepting a tooth that has gone deep into the bone. Like Quasimodo in that movie, you'll just be seen as a freak. When the doctors say such things, the first reaction is, let's remove the tooth. That was my first thought. I said, then remove it. Then I asked right away, will I still be able to give lectures? They said, of course not. That immediately sobered me up. It was the effect of my earlier prayers. I said, I'll go think about it. I went out, prayed, and looked at things and realized it was all nonsense. My heart was calm. There were signs. I felt this is the way we will win, and I walked out of that hospital. The first step was accepting my fate. I accepted it. Then came influence. I started walking, praying. Then I felt what I should do. The influence began. I learned how to influence. And third was victory. So what's your situation? You wanted to know how to change him? That's impossible. That's the trap. What you wanted is a trap. That's where people get stuck and suffer their whole lives. If you want to help him, not yourself, then you're trapped. There's no other way out. You see, he is your punishment. If a person tries to escape the corner life has placed them in, life will only keep them there longer. Your husband is your punishment. It's what you've earned at this point in life, and you don't want to go through it. But this punishment is cleared through spiritual life. First, you need the strength to accept it. First, pray and receive the strength to accept. Then comes forgiveness and restoring a normal relationship. As soon as you start communicating peacefully with him, he will begin to blossom like a flower and start to grow. Do you understand me? There's only one way. The other way is like a monkey jumping from branch to branch, leaving this one and finding another just like him. Just slightly different, but as they say, the same wine in a different bottle. And you won't know which way to go. You'll find someone again. He may work well, but something else will be off, and this will go on for life. Someone wrote me a note. I know several languages and have a music degree, but I enjoy working as a driver. My parents don't fully approve of my choice. They advise me to look for a job in my field. My mother is a teacher. My father is a driver. How should I choose my profession? Go work as a driver.
When someone reads a prayer from the Quran, they may not always understand its meaning.
That's not right. First, you need to understand it. Learn all the words and only then reflect on their meaning. At first, you should say the prayer in your native language. And later, you can start reciting it in the original language with understanding. Meaning is more important than sound. If you can't pronounce it properly, at least convey the meaning of the prayer clearly. Some people simply can't pronounce certain words. For example, in China, people often can't pronounce the R sound. It becomes L. If the prayer has the letter R, a Chinese person may pronounce it as L. That doesn't mean they can't read the Quran.
Can a Muslim read Orthodox Christian prayers?
That depends on the level of that Muslim person. If your faith is already very strong, and you have a spiritual mentor in your Muslim faith, then why would you need to read Orthodox prayers? You already have your own prayers, but if you still feel like reading different ones, it means you haven't fully found your faith yet, so the search must go on. If you want to explore something, read something, go ahead and do it. When a person truly believes, they're simply not interested in that anymore. They don't feel the need. Although personally I can read the Lord's Prayer with joy, I have no issues with that. I have my own prayer and my own faith. It's not orthodox. It all depends on one's level of development. A mature person respects different spiritual paths, but still holds on to their own. A mature mother may love many children, but she still has her own son, and no other child can ever be dearer to her than her own son. God doesn't really care which faith you follow. He created them all for different types of people. People have different temperaments, different worldviews, different ways of praying. Some people pray standing still like this, others sitting in the lotus position. And some even spin around while praying. You understand? Everyone is different. We shouldn't put everyone in the same mold. The most important thing is to think about holiness. The main focus should be on holiness. Only after that comes the sound itself, the actual words. The prayer must be heartfelt and powerful, full of soul. But you can't reach that level if you're not focused on holiness. So before praying, you should read about the object of your prayer, reflect on it, prepare yourself, so the prayer comes from deep within. And the right attitude should be this: I don't want anything from you. I just want to serve you. Don't try to exploit the higher energy. It already knows what you need and gives it at the right time. It decides where to direct your energy. You just focus on offering your energy to Him. Then everything stays in balance. He takes care of your problems and you simply serve Him, that's it. No one gets in anyone's way, but people often interfere. They keep asking, give me this, give me that, give me more. There's no need to ask. He already knows what to give and when. I saw this story in a program, an unusual event connected with Dr. Torsunov. I'm not to blame. I don't even know how it happens. One woman was sitting in the room, asking me questions silently, in her mind, and during the lecture I started answering her questions right away. Then she raised her hand to ask something. And I told her, I've already answered so many of your questions. How many more should I answer? I don't know how it happened. I don't even remember the moment. But she was shocked. She asked in her mind, raised her hand, and then said it out loud. It happened somehow, on a subconscious level. Yes, the girl over there.
My husband works all the time, day and night.
Why? I'll explain now why a man ends up working day and night all year long. There's a reason. One man didn't work at all the whole year. He just found a bottle with a genie in it. He rubbed it, and the genie appeared. The man said, I want to have everything, everything. And the genie replied, you already had everything. The problem is that his goal in life is wrongly set, and such a goal will undoubtedly ruin his life. There are 5 stages in the life of a person who wants to have everything and therefore keeps working non-stop. The first stage is enthusiasm, the second is tiredness, the third is strain, the fourth is breakdown, and the fifth is degradation, drinking, and all that follows. This is the inevitable result of such a lifestyle. Now let's look at it from your perspective and ask, why do I have such a life? Why did I end up with a man who lives like that? Because you're not directing your energy towards the highest goal in life. As soon as you begin to think of God, what is a woman? She is an inspiring force. Wherever her energy flows, that's where the man will spend his energy too. When you start thinking about self-development and prayer, his mind will also begin to rise gradually, and the processes of self-awareness will start working in him too. Once a lady came up to me and said, "My husband is such a fool. I pray so much, I work on myself, but he doesn't change." I asked her, "Where is this husband?" She said, "He's right there attending the lecture too." I asked, "In what way is he not changing?" She said, "He still smokes." So I asked him, "What about it?" He said, "I used to smoke 2 packs a day. Now I just occasionally have 1 cigarette a week." And it was the same with everything else. Would you like me to share something important now? In Sanskrit, the word for woman is stri. It means an ever-expanding desire, something that never stops. That's why a woman will never see that her husband is growing as much as she invests in him. She always feels like he's not changing. This is just the nature of a woman. It's not greed. A woman simply cannot settle for what she has. It always feels like her husband falls short. No matter how much she invests, it always seems like he's not enough.
What should we do?
You just need to understand the nature of a woman. It's normal for her to feel that way, like he's not measuring up. You should not ask God for anything. Serve God in your heart, bow to Him, think of Him, and sincerely desire to follow His instructions. There's no need to ask. He already knows what you need. He'll give you exactly what you need and in the right direction. If you start asking, you may suffer greatly. You pray and ask Him for a husband, but at that very time, what you actually need is health. Because let's say, by fate, you're meant to face a serious illness now. And God wants to support you through that illness, but you keep saying, "I want a husband, I want a husband." So He gives you one, and then you quietly die with your husband. A person doesn't really know what they need in life. But God knows. That's why you shouldn't ask for anything. He just redirected the energy in the wrong way.
Can we pray for spiritual growth?
You must pray for spiritual growth, but usually people ask for material things. Is your question related to the topic?
I have a different question. You said that a soulmate is who I was in the past. Then what about the friends a person attracts in life? Do they reflect who I am now?
Would you like me to show you your fate?
Yes.
Mentally place all your close people in front of you. Your friends, your mother, your father. What kind of relationships do you have with them? That is your fate? That's your past life? It's standing right in front of you now.
No, that's not what I meant to ask. A soulmate is who I was in the past. But what about friends?
This is also some part of your past.
But is this minor karma?
If your friend stabs you in the ribs with a knife, then it's not minor. It depends on the relationship, how deep and serious it is, and what's happening there. There are all kinds of friends and all kinds of relationships. The deeper the relationship, the stronger the karma.
Then how can I understand who I really am?
Through a mentor, through a spiritual guide, he will tell you who you really are. Most people don't want to know the truth about themselves. That's why they avoid having a mentor. We have 15 minutes left. We have a good relationship with the director of this club. He listens to my lectures. I wouldn't want to upset him. If we go over time, the staff here will start feeling stressed. I hope this lecture gave you some good and positive feelings. It's coming to an end.
Tell me, please, is it right to pray for everyone? Or should we only pray for ourselves?
You should pray for the salvation of all. That is service to God. We must rise above our own selves. Pray for people. Pray for the practice of spiritual principles. Don't pray for yourself. That's the right mindset. Now let's all sit up straight. Don't worry about the notes you brought. Tomorrow we'll have a lecture about the difficulties of achieving things, and I have a request for you. Please think about the topic of human purpose. Reflect in your heart if you have any difficulty understanding it. This is not about telling me about your hemorrhoids and trying to connect it to the topic of human purpose. Dr. Torsunov, I have hemorrhoids, so I can't fulfill my purpose. Don't do that. Ask questions that are directly related to choosing your path in life. Not about health, not about personal life. Ask questions about the purpose of a human being. Thank you very much. I wish you all happiness, love, knowledge, and all the brightest blessings in your life. I'm deeply grateful to you for staying with me all this time and tolerating my jokes. To learn more on the subject of health and healing of the body, please make sure to read my health guide, available for download on my YouTube channel or on my Instagram page. Thank you very much, and see you soon.